guys, today I'm going to do a fairly simple lesson on grass and a couple different ways that I like to paint my grass. And I've sectioned off a piece of paper here. I'm going to be using acrylic paint, and I did write down what I was going to do so that I wouldn't forget, because I wanted to give you like enough examples that would be really helpful. So I'm just going to use this craft paint. It's called Cloudless. It's a nice kind of a soft sky color, and I'm going to just block in my sky. I feel like it's going to make the grass look a little bit better than it just being on white. So I'm going to block that in real quick. All right, so I might try a couple of different colors. I'm gonna try Prussian blue and cad yellow. And I'll also use black and cad yellow to mix my green. So I'm gonna get out some black craft paint, and some artists may disagree with me on this, but I don't feel like you need very, very expensive paint to create, to create stunning paintings and pieces of work. So the brushes I'm going to use, I wanted to show you a variety of different things so that whatever you've got already, you could try to use. So I don't know if I'm going to use that brush yet. We'll see. This is a flat bristle brush that I got at Walmart in the home painting aisle. So like if you were painting your house or something, this is the section in Walmart that I got it from. You can also get these from like Home Depot or Lowe's. It's a 2-inch. Mine is really worn out, and honestly, the more worn out your brush gets, the better your grass will look. This is a fan brush. It's a bristle brush. It's a number 1, and it's by Master's Touch. But the only thing you really need to worry about is that it's bristle. I don't have any of the really soft fan brushes, like synthetic or anything, because I never use them. I feel like the bristle is much better to use for the grass. And then down here at the bottom, I'm also going to use a liner brush. Apes, my cat is messing with the brushes now. Can you see him over here? In this other video, or in this other camera? A liner brush, just to do like some taller grass blades. Okay, so I'm going to do, this first little section will be how to create distance in grass. So it'll look further away in the background and then closer in the foreground. And I'm afraid this is going to be a little bit hard to do on such a small space, but I'm going to try to make it work. Come here, buddy. I'm sorry. Okay, and then I'm going to do grass with highlights and shadows. Short grass, tall grass, both of those with a fan brush. And then tall grass with the flat bristle brush. And then tall grass with the fan brush and the liner brush. So just some taller blades sticking up out of the ground. So distance with the fan brush, I'm going to get, I think I'm going to use, I'm going to use this one. It's a little more worn out. These are really good to use also when they're really worn out. Okay, sorry about that. I already messed up. I got way ahead of myself. Just ignore this part. It's not going to make any difference whatsoever. Really sorry about that. So the first thing I'm going to do is mix up my shadow color. Well, not really mix up, I'll just kind of mix it on my brush. A shadow color for all of the grass. And that's going to be a dark green. So I'm going to use my black and my cad yellow. And I'm going to cover the whole grassy area with the dark color. Now I'm going to take my bristle brush and I'm going to mix up a really, really light green. Wipe it off a little bit. And in the background for the distant grass, I'm going to tap really close together. It's almost going to be just a solid color, but not quite. I'm holding the brush kind of at an angle and kind of 90 degrees. Just, you know, try a couple of different ways and until you get the effect that you want. Really close together. So tap, 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 very close. Now, as you move closer to the foreground, my taps are going to get further apart. This is a really small scale that I'm working on here, so hopefully it's going to translate. I don't normally paint this small. And I'm also going to get a little bit darker as I get closer to the foreground. So I'm just going to rinse off my brush, wipe it off. And I want to go a little bit darker here in the foreground, but I also need it to be lighter than my under the shadow color, okay? So closer to the foreground, even further apart. My taps are further apart. It may not have been light enough. Let me dry it and see. This is so small. It's hard to tell, but hopefully you guys you're getting the idea here. So I'm going to go even a little bit lighter than I was and really kind of like make sure this horizon's really light, really close taps. I'm not going to see a lot of detail back here in the background and not a lot of shadows. Because it's so far away, you're not going to see any of that. You're not going to see individual blades of grass. I think that's translating pretty well. And if you're like me, you can overdo it. Tapping like that, and once you get in the groove and you're like, oh, that's starting to really look like grass. I love that. And you just get carried away. If that happens, you can always go back and add a little bit more of your shadow color. Darken it back up. And then if you go too dark, you can add some more highlights. Let's try it and see how it looks. Okay, I think that looks pretty good to be such a small scale. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, going back to the same thing I did before, I'm going to block in with my darker color. That's much darker than last time, but that's okay. At least we'll get a variety of different things here. So I'm going to do some, what did I say here? Grass with shadows and highlights. Let's do, I don't want to make this too complicated. Buddy says he doesn't want me to make this complicated either. I'm going to grab a little bit of brown and I'm going to put a little fence here so I have something to make a shadow with. Yeah, I'm not going to make this too complicated. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this fence because the fence is not. It's not what I'm trying to demonstrate. This is going to be the worst fence in history. Worst fence ever. Okay, whatever. It's fine. It works. Highlights, I think for something this small, I'm going to use this little flat bristle brush. It comes in the set with the round, with the round bristle brush. I got these at Hobby Lobby. And I'm just going to use this because it's much smaller. Hopefully it'll work. Highlight. Hold on, actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to use my fan brush first and do my first layer. Like, this is really dark, but I still want to go over it with the green, and then I'll go in and add highlights. So darker green, holding the brush 90 degrees, and when I tap, I push down a little bit. So my brush like kind of like that, like it it just spreads like that when I tap. Okay, I'm going to dry this. And now I'm going to add my highlights. And since these posts are so small, I'm going to use this smaller bristle brush. A little bit of cad yellow and some white. All right, so I want my shadows to go. We'll just do it like this. I wish I had not painted so many posts. One post would have been plenty. Oops, that's the wrong color. That's my highlight. I'm just kind of laying out where I want these shadows. So I can paint around it. I mean, you can use this brush for graphs too. experiment with different brushes. I use a different brush almost every time I paint grass or trees, just because you never know what kind of effect you're going to, I mean, sometimes you know what kind of effect you're going to get, but I like to experiment a lot. Kind of looks like it's going downhill, but whatever. Really light for another highlight, and then I'll work on my shadow because I want to make sure this doesn't look like it's just big patches of grass sticking up. I want it to look flat. So layer upon layer. Start with a shadow color, add a highlight, add another highlight if you want, and another highlight if you want. Just just keep like adding highlights until you're happy with it. So darker green, the shadow that's being cast for these posts is way too big, but this is so small. I can barely see what I'm doing. So it kind of looks like it's sitting at the very top of a hill, and it's casting a shadow down. One thing I forgot to mention up here is when you're doing your shadows and your highlights for something that's casting a shadow on your grass or whatever, make sure you don't go in like a straight line, okay? For example, if, oh my goodness, my easel's falling off my desk. If you just go in a very straight line, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you overlap a little bit, it's going to look a little more natural. And I guess at this distance and the size of this fence, a solid line does actually look a little bit better now that I've painted it, of course. But you know, if you overlap them a little bit, it's going to look a little more natural. And by overlapping, I mean some of the shadow goes into the highlight, some of the highlight goes into the shadow, if that makes sense. It's not just a solid straight line. But, you know, looking at it right now at this scale, hey, psst, psst, quit scratching the door. Hey, psst, quit. Looking at it at this scale and how small this fence is, a solid line doesn't look half bad. But up close, I would definitely recommend overlapping. Put some of your highlight into your shadow and some of your shadow into your highlight. Okay? Short grass fan brush. Let's do Prussian blue and yellow this time. Why not? Oh, I'm so sorry, I keep pulling that out. Short grass fan brush. Tall grass fan brush over here. Let's do both. Let's do this one. I'm just gonna go ahead and like block in over here. while I got this color on my brush. Since this is going to be tall brush, I'm just wiggling straight up and down while I block in my grass. Back to this. Back to you, Tom. All right, short grass with fan brush. Let me get that other green out of here. Short grass with the fan brush. Short taps, not a lot of pressure. That's one layer of. I'm sure that these lights that I bought are really working out for me. I see a lot of glare. Turn it here a little bit. Meow. I'm gonna go a little bit lighter. Try not to get any repeating patterns. I just noticed I was getting this one little dot over and over. So rotate your brush, flip it, reload it. Short, quick taps for short grass. My cat just jumped up on my shoulder. Oh, now he's on my camera or my tripod. Get down, buddy. I'm sorry. Short grass. Tall grass. Oh my God, my cat is driving me crazy. Okay, tall grass. Bro, come here. You got to get down. I'm busy. I'm sorry. Tall grass. Oh, not black. Shoot. We're using the Prussian blue this time. Tall grass with the fan brush. Prussian blue, cad yellow. This time I'm going to hold my brush vertically. And I'm going to tap some, and then others I'm going to push up. Try not to cover up all of your dark shadow color, because when you do that, that's when you lose the definition of the grass. And again, if you go overboard and you cover up all of your shadows, I do that constantly. You can always go back and add more shadow and then add highlight again if you overdo it with the shadow. More highlight. So a lighter color, adding more yellow, and same pattern. Pushing up and tapping. I will go back in and add some more shadow to this so that you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna overdo it. Make it all highlight. I've lost pretty much all of my shadow, but I'm gonna fix it. Back in with my darker green. And I'm gonna add my shadow back in. because I went crazy on it. And now this time I'll try to be much more careful about how much highlight I put on there. But I want to make sure it's dry first. That's not quite bright enough. Let's go a little bit lighter. Really want to see these highlights pop. Oh, there we go. Let's make some of them taller. Try not to overdo it. Push up. All different directions. Make some of them go this way, some of them go that way. Ooh, I'm about to overdo it again. There we go. Tall grass. I even messed up and we fixed it. I fixed it. You didn't fix it. You didn't mess up. I messed up. This one's by far my favorite. I love this one. All right. I'm going to use Prussian blue again. Mix up my dark first. I'm going to make this one kind of tall because this brush is big. Plus I got more space. I'm going to go ahead and block this one in too because I've already got the paint on my brush. Move back over here so that didn't focus. Okay. Okay. This one I'm going to use the blue, the cad yellow, and this brush will hold a lot of paint. So I'm going to use a cloth and I'm going to wipe a lot of it off. I don't want a bunch of big clumps. I mean, unless you want big clumps, you can do that. I don't right now. Okay. I want to do a test tap. Oh, that's good. Okay. So for this brush, I can either tap 90 degrees or I can push up. Let's get a little more paint. I might have wiped too much of it off. And it's really easy to overdo it with this one and lose all of your shadow. So I will go back and add some more shadow. I'm going to tap here at the horizon because I can see that line, that solid line where I blocked it in, and I don't want that. So I'm going to tap there to kind of cover that up and then push upwards to get rid of that. Let's do some really tall blades. I've completely lost all of my shadow there, just completely. So I'm going to fix that, but I'm going to dry it first. Oops, sorry. I'm going to get out a little bit of black. Tap it on my cloth so there's no really big clumps. And then come in with some black. And then try again. Try not to overdo it. I ran out of my Prussian blue. Not going to wash this brush for my highlights. I'm just going to wipe it off. When you wash these brushes, they get clumpy if they're not completely dry. I don't recommend getting it wet or washing it between highlights. like between layers of highlights. Oh, there's a big hair. That looks like my cat's hair. All right, some highlight. I'm just gonna tap my brush, make sure all the big clumpies are out, and very delicately, I'm gonna, I'm gonna try to get some tall grass highlights. These brushes are really good if you've got a lot of area to cover. Like if you've got a lot of grass you want to get filled in, a big field or something. It's fast, it's effective, it looks nice. Back and forth with the highlights and the shadows until until you're happy with it. I would leave it there. I'd be happy with leaving it there. I'm going to add one more little layer of highlight. Hopefully I don't regret this. Ooh, that is a big clump right there. Okay, I regret it. Instant regret. Instant regret. I don't like the third highlight that I did there. Moving on. Tall grass, fan and liner brush. Okay. I'm kind of turning my camera at an angle here, my easel at an angle, so that you can see how I'm tapping. Like over here, I tapped and pushed up. I want you to be able to see the brush hair, like the bristles, like how it's hitting on the canvas. Or, well, this is paper, but whatever. All right, tall grass with a flat liner brush, or with the fan brush and the liner. It's basically going to be the same thing up here, but I'm just going to add a liner brush as well. I'm really not into painting each blade of grass individually with a liner brush. You can totally do that, but that takes forever, and I can get the same effect, if not better, with just a regular fan brush. All right, tall blades of grass, just like up there. Holding my brush vertically instead of horizontally. Rotate it, turn it a little bit, this way and that way. Definitely going to have to go back in and add more shadow because I'm already overdoing it, especially right here at this horizon. Now you can do this while it's wet. It doesn't have to be dry, but your colors are going to blend together and you're not going to get like a real crisp grass. So this is what it would look like if you did not dry it in between. It looks a little bit softer, and there's really nothing wrong with that. If that's the look you're going for, then don't wait for your grass to dry. All right, some highlight. I'm going to be real careful. Well, that's too clumpy. This is like big clumps of grass. Now with the liner brush, I don't ever really use this method, but it is a method you can try, and it may be something that you're wanting in your painting, so I figured I would show you. I put a little bit of water on my, oh, you can't even see my water over here, can you? Put some water on my liner brush, wipe off the excess water, dip it in my paint, and then I'm just going to very delicately, I'm barely holding the brush in my fingers, okay? I'm just like very lightly, very light pressure. I'm just going to put more pressure at the bottom and less pressure at the top. And real quick, try not to think too much about it. Don't overthink it. Reload. Some people paint all of their grass like this. I can't do that. I don't have the patience for that. Really quickly, very light pressure. Some of them this way, straight up. Curve a little bit of them, curve a couple of them. And it's real easy to get carried away with this too. It's a lot harder to cover up your background and your sky there, so be real careful. And a little tip for your liner brushes, I always just rinse my brush out, get the paint out of it, and then I lay it off to the side until I'm ready to wash it. Because if you put your liner brush down in your jar or whatever you're using, it's going to sit like this until you go wash it, and that will ruin your liner brush. So I rinse it off, lay it to the side. That's all I got for today. That's a lot of different ways to paint grass, and hopefully this helps. I'm really surprised by how many people ask me for help with painting grass. See, that's the difference in the lighting. Oof. Don't like that at all. So those lights are really helping. Man. It's really still not like true color. And that's kind of what I was going for. Was a true color here. I don't know how well this tape is going to hold up on this paper, but we'll see. All right, well, it's stuck to my little piece of wood there, but that's all right. Couple different ways to paint grass. So I hope this helps, and let me know in the comments what you think. If you liked today's video, give that like button a tap, and please consider subscribing. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok, where I upload content almost daily. Thank you for watching.